Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Chaos Space Marine Codex. In this one we're going to talk about a very fun guy called Kharn The Betrayer. Great guy, you know, he's been around for a long time, both in the game and also in the lore, and he's contributed much destruction on both those elements. So how this is going to work is that I'm going to do a small sort of analysis of his stats, his war gear, special abilities, and also I'm going to look at a bit of lore about Kharn. I'm going to look at his Legion trait, how it helps him, Warlord trait that he has given, so sort of which one he gets the most benefit from. He only gets one really. Psychic abilities, which some of you may not agree with, and also stratagems, and I'll do a wee bit of a conclusion on what I think of Kharn as well. So to begin these, I always begin with a little bit of lore and a wee bit of talk about special characters. I am by no means a sort of lore master. I don't know everything when it comes to obviously all the characters' history. If there's anything I get wrong, please let me know, and if there's any other cool parts I have missed, please comment below. So yeah, let's have a look at Kharn. So Kharn is absolute anger murder machine. If there are words that describe Khorne, and that is absolute love for all things skulls, then Kharn is pretty much the personification of this, except for possibly Angron and a few great demons, etc. But you know, you get the idea. Kharn was a space marine of the Warhound Legion, and eventually rising to the rank of captain, so all things so far going pretty well for him. And eventually the Warhounds were reunited with their much sought after Primarch, which, you know, sort of all legions sort of aspire to do. There was one slight problem with that, and Angron, the Primarch, had zero interest in the Emperor's Grand Crusade and turned his back on the Legion. So they could only do what they were advised by the Emperor and fundamentally sort of kidnapped Angron, and this did not sit well with him particularly. Eventually began murdering his own officers in absolute rage while they held him in containment, because I don't know how they contained Angron, but they did, and each one of the officers sort of went in and proceeded to get pummeled to death. Eventually in comes Kharn, and who in almost calm composure takes an absolute thrashing and beating from Angron, but while he's taking this beating, he basically tells Angron everything that he could achieve with the Warhounds, and eventually persuades Angron that leading the Warhounds can only allow him to traverse the stars in a glorious stream of gore and violence. Where he said eventually persuaded Angron to stop piling up the corpses of his officers and finally get to work. Overall, sounds like a calm, pretty understanding guy to, you know, sort of talk down Angron. Well, Kharn becomes Angron's closest confidant and the position of equerry. Though the problem is that Kharn may seem like a good choice, you know, as he did manage to calm down his, you know, sometimes hostile Primarch. He himself was a bit of a rage machine at best, and would end up following his Primarch into thick of battle rather than work as an advisor as such, which equerry's role sort of was. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm really sorry. Though this all depends on what you define good advice is. If it was to, you know, sort of find out where more skulls were, and Kharn was telling Angron, let's kill these guys, then yeah, he has been a good, you know, advisor. So depends on your look in these sort of things. However, having Angron eventually install the affectionately named Butcher's Nails into his Legion's skulls probably didn't help Kharn in that sort of role as advisor, and just sort of furthered his, you know, bloody rampage that all the World Eaters were quite come to do. Kharn took part in the Massacre of Estevan III. In the massacre, at least, I'm pretty sure he followed his Primarch down to the planet after Horse orders sort of went a bit wrong. He was hoping to cause more damage from the sky, and Angron sort of had enough of this and went, well, I'm going to just jump down and start butchering things in combat, and Kharn and his World Eaters went with them and started blooding their blades with the blood of their brothers. You know, I don't think Horus was very pleased about that. I think he wanted to do more damage from the sky. Angron saw differently. During this fray, Kharn was struck down while fighting Garviel Loken, an important figure in the Horus Heresy books, and if you've not read them, I highly encourage you to, because they are awesome, especially like the first 3. That's the best way to go. But he wasn't struck down by Loken himself, no, he was skewered on basically a tank's dozer blade, basically impaled, but somehow Kharn survived this when others would not. So, cool guy, you know, pretty hard to bring down. During the Horus Heresy, Kharn inherited the discarded weapon of his Primarch, Gorechild, eventually getting it back to functional use and has since used it for a mighty long time. Not entirely sure how Kharn avoided his Primarch's displeasure at using his old weapon. I don't think, you know, Angron would be too happy about that, but he has done it for nearly 10,000 years, give or take a wee bit of time. So he's doing something right. If you know how he's managed to use Angron's weapon without Angron getting really angry, I mean, I'm sure he's always angry, but more angry at that, let me know, because I've got no explanation how Kharn could not have suffered his displeasure. Eventually, Kharn took part in the Battle of Terror and was right in the battle of the Imperial Palace, collecting skulls and whatnot. This was the second time Kharn was struck down and lay on a pile of corpses, and you know what? Pretty good way to go, all things considered, you know, on top of the pile of his foes and other traitor marines, because, you know, skulls and all that. However, after discovering the body, the World Eaters found that Kharn was revived, almost to continue serving Khorne as a devoted servant. Well, if you define sort of devotion as, you know, spilling blood and collecting skulls, then yeah, he was pretty devoted, you know, he was doing those things pretty well. After the Horus Heresy, the World Eaters arrived at the planet of Skalthrax and got a bit of a conflict with the Emperor's children. Legion, traitor brother fighting traitor brother until a horrendous cold took the battle that would kill a space marine, and eventually both sides stopped fighting to survive the cold. This did not please Kharn, not one bit. Kharn took up a flamer because, yes, you know, irony I guess, and began to heat things up, destroying cover and then shredding World Eaters and Emperor's children alike for delaying the carnage. Thus the name Kharn the Betrayer was born. This doesn't seem too right to me because, you know, they're all traitor legions, they're all traitor marines, you know, they're all betrayers in their own way. Ah well, you know, he killed his own traitor brothers, so makes him the ultimate betrayer, I guess. So that's some of the tales of blood and carnage of Kharn the Betrayer, and there is many tales, usually involving blood, gore, skulls and all that jazz. So long as he continues his rampage across the stars, he will continue to gain favour with Khorne. I mean, apparently Khorne keeps a pile of skulls, you know, keeps a lot of pile of skulls, but one exclusively for, like, Kharn's contribution. So you know you're a pretty scary guy when a god likes to keep a pile of skulls just to keep count on your kill count. What a cool guy. So that's a wee bit about Kharn. Let us know if I got anything wrong, I might have, or if there's any other cool stories that involve Kharn. I'm now going to look at him a bit more in the tabletop sense. Going to look at his stats, his equipment and special abilities. So let's have a look at his stats. Kharn has a movement 6, understandable, he is on foot. His weapon skill and ballistic skill 2, again very understandable for an HQ in a marine army, you'd expect that. He has strength 5, so he's about, you know, the usual strength of most traitor marines, but he's 1 higher, which is excellent. I think that's the same strength as Khorne Berserkers, so makes sense he has strength 5. Toughness 4, average, again he's a marine. 5 wounds, so he's quite survivable in that sense. 6 attacks, plenty of attacks to do much damage, and he gets more, trust me. Leadership 9, yeah, it'd be nice to be 10, but, you know, he's not going to be running away, but he might have some other abilities that do affect him. And, and a 3+ save. Well, it'd be nice if it was 2+, but 3+ is all fine as well. Generally you want him to be chopping off heads before he gets his. So what is Kharn armed with in terms of equipment? Kharn has Kharn's plasma pistol, a range 12 pistol 1, so you can fire in combat, which is handy. Strength 8 off the bat, AP -3, 2 damage. Each time you roll a hit roll of 1, when firing this weapon the bearer suffers a mortal wound. So at least he's not slain, because many other characters, they fire plasma and go supercharge, they're dead. So it's nice to have Kharn won't die, he'll just suffer 1 mortal wound. And there is a way to avoid that with, you know, Kharn's much disputed rerolls. I'll get to that in a minute. He is armed with the infamous Gorechild, as said, the weapon, former weapon of his Primarch. It is a melee weapon. It is +1 strength, meaning he's strength 6, which is awesome. -4 AP, so he's going to be shredding through armour like there's no tomorrow. D3 damage, kind of hoped it would be a wee bit higher, a solid 2 or 3, but D3 is still effective. And this weapon always hits on 2+ regardless of any modifiers. So, you know, even if your opponent has something that might blind him or reduce something in combat, no, Kharn is hitting you 2+. It's going to happen. He has frag and crack grenades. I won't go into frag and crack grenades because I've explained them a lot, and they're frag and crack grenades. So what abilities does Kharn have? Death to the False Emperor, always handy against Imperial units. If you score a 6+ when rolling to hit them, you get an extra attack. Really handy. Ways to buff it. Against Zero Strength or other Traitor Marines, not so much. He has the Betrayer rule. You cannot reroll any modify hit rolls of 1 made for Kharn the Betrayer in the fight phase. So, you know, he's one of the few HQs that, you know, may have rerolls. He does not in the fight phase. Very important to remember that. Instead, those attacks automatically hit a friendly unit within 1 inch. Randomly determine which unit is hit if there is more than 1. If there are no friendly units within 1 inch Kharn, the hit is discarded. So why is that important? It means you can kill other people random. It'll be that one time you have an Archaeos Lord next to you and you roll like 4 1s and you end up taking their skull. Whoops! But it sometimes happens. It's important to note that it says in the fight phase, so keep this in mind. Although you cannot reroll his once in the fight phase, it means with his pistol, if you roll a 1, it would usually be a mortal wound. You can reroll that. Some people might get that wrong, but it's important to know that no, you can reroll it. You might not suffer the effects of that mortal wound. He has Sigil of Corruption, pretty standard I think for most like Chaos Warlords, Chaos characters, is the Sigil of Corruption, 4 pinball, very handy. He also has Blood for the Blood Gods. Kharn the Betrayer can fight twice in each fight phase instead of only once. That's standard for Chaos Berserkers, Khorne Berserkers. It fundamentally means at bare minimum he's got like 12 attacks. Let that sink in, pretty awesome. He also has Kill, Maim, Burn. You can reroll failed hit rolls made for friendly World Eater units within 1 inch of Kharn the Betrayer. So that's friendly hit rolls, that includes the shooting phase as far as I can see here, and that's really handy. It is only 1 inch, so that sort of coincides with his Betrayer rule, because it'd be handy if it was a bigger bubble, but then everyone would avoid being near him for that reroll. They'd be like, cool, 6 inches, I'm going to stay away. No, you have to be within 1 inch, and you really want that benefit of the rerolls. You might lop off a few heads of some bros, but just make sure more than anything, have like maybe cultists near him, or just like sacrifice a couple of dudes. Those rerolls are really handy. Don't have a character near them, because if those randomly allocated hits hit them, you'll feel it. It will not be fun. So yeah, that is Kharn's rules. Pretty solid. You can be an absolutely like 12 attacks at the lowest really is murder incarnate for a Space Marine. So that's pretty cool. Let's have a look at his Legion trait and how it benefits him. Kharn obviously benefits quite well from the Legion rules, Butcher's Nails. Very simply put, he gains an extra attack if he makes a successful charge in the subsequent fight phase, giving him a healthy 7 attacks, which is awesome. However, you know, with his Blood for Blood God rule, it fundamentally gives him a total of 14 attacks on the charge. And there are ways to make this go further as well, but you might not like them. I'll get to them later. Don't complain, this guy's job is to slaughter, cause carnage, and all the various other stuff as well. So on the charge, 14 attacks is basically 2 fight phases he gets. Really awesome. His Warlord Traits, if you give me a wee second, because I jumped up there. So his Warlord Trait, Kharn, is the Legion specific one, which is called Slaughterborn. That was what I was checking there because I didn't write it down. What this gives you is basically you get +1 attack and strength every time your Warlord slays an enemy character, monster or Titanic model. Not bad, but not terrible. Would have been nice to have a Warlord trait that benefits them from the get-go, but especially in smaller games where there may not be many characters etc. to go with. But as this is cumulative, he can benefit from it in the long run. Sure, more attacks is nice, but the higher strength is probably the most important part, because getting strength 7 will help you damage light vehicles a lot more reliably, and strength 8 is where it all counts, because that means you're wounding toughness 4 and 2 pluses, light vehicles and 3 pluses, and heavier stuff and a 4 plus. It just means you're going character and monster hunting in a long part, not Titanic hunting. Generally a bit of a mistake, but not impossible. You can take out Titanic, models, but generally it's kind of ill-advised, because if you don't kill them, they might kill you back. Kharn the Charge is pretty reliable to tear through most characters and monsters fairly reliably. 14 attacks, hit on 2s, wounding usually on 3s, maybe 2s, maybe 4s, etc. He's going to shred loads of things apart if given the chance. So the only challenge I can see from that is that if your opponent... Kharn has a bit of a reputation. If your opponent knows you're bringing Kharn, generally they're going to keep their bigger stuff away from him. They don't want characters or monsters getting near him, because if he charges them, he'll slaughter them more than likely. But hey, if they're up for the challenge, then Kharn's like, bring it, more skulls, it's either yours or it's either mine. Kharn doesn't care. Next, this may seem like utter heresy. I'm going to be talking about psychic abilities for a member of the World Eater's Legion. Preposterous, I know. If you are a pure World Eater fan, you may want to skip this part. It may anger a few of you. You're like, psychic abilities, no. But a psyker cannot also be from the World Eater's Legion, so you can't have them in the same detachment as World Eaters as part of the errata. I'm pretty sure it says no. They still can benefit from the abilities though, so say you've got a detachment of other Chaos Space Marines, perhaps a Sorcerer in a jump pack or Terminator armour. Yeah, there's some benefits that might help Kharn get some more bloody murder. There's advantages to it, but if you're a pure World Eater and don't want to hear about it, skip on. So, some abilities that help him. Warp Time, Warp Charge 6. Pick a heretic status unit within 3 inches, and you can move as if it was the movement phase. So we all agree this is good. Warp time is generally favoured as good. Kharn needs to get up close and personal, and this helps get Kharn where needed. Maybe as I said, a jump or Terminator Sorcerer deep striking in just gives him that extra push to get into combat, and Kharn's not going to maybe complain about that. He might, but he shouldn't be. It's more skulls, man. Next up is a very important one, I feel, which is Diabolic Strength. Warp Charge 6. Pick a Heretic Status model within 12 inches of the Psyker and add 2 strength and 1 attack until the next Psychic phase. 1 extra attack for Kharn is always fun. It is essentially 2 extra attacks, which on the charge makes him have 8 attacks normally, and then another fight you can do brings him to like 16 attacks, which is... and it also brings him that much needed +2 strength, bringing him to a strength of 8. This is the biggest advantage. It will bring Kharn to the vicious strength 8, which will, as we already talked about already. Seriously, Kharn's ungodly amount of attacks and high strength Gore Child, you can see him rip apart even the heaviest of vehicles with fairly bit amount of ease. At the end of the day, if it brings heads, then all's well and good. World Eaters want that. But again, as I said, if you're a true World Eater and you don't want anything to do with psychics, fair enough. But if you want to add some more skulls and have a bit more chance, then yeah, bring a Psyker, give him Diabolic Strength, give him a Warp Time, push Kharn to greater glory. Maybe even keep that Sorcerer within 1 inch of Kharn and show him what for, in case, you know, Kharn decides to lop his head off. You know, be adventurous. I don't know. Stratagem recommendations. So we're going to talk about key stratagems for Kharn, basically to push him into more danger than push him to be more dangerous than he already is. So what fun can be had with Kharn? Veterans of Long War, 1 command point, used in Heretic Stars infantry or biker unit in the shooting or fight phase, but not renegades. So if you're renegade chapter, Kharn is not, then you can't use that. You can add 1 to the wound rolls for the unit until the end of that phase. So if you're doing the shooting phase, you can add 1 to the wound rolls there, and the fight phase, with Kharn you kind of want to do in that one, you add 1 to the wound rolls then. Yeah, you can use his pistol, cool, you adventurous devil you. It's a strong pistol, it can do a bit of damage, fair enough. However, where the fun begins is the fight phase. All those attacks usually wounding on 3s, maybe 2s, seriously make sure the attacks connect, which is very, very important for Kharn. This stratagem is a staple in just about any Chaos Space Marine list, minus Renegades, and Kharn is definitely someone who could benefit from it. So, you know, it all but ensures death for most units. Veteran of Long War for 1 command point, great. Kharn is definitely a unit to consider for it. Fury of Khorne, 3 command points, used at the end of the fight phase on a Heretic Stars Khorne infantry or biker unit. That unit can immediately fight again. Very pricey for what it does, and you have to ask yourself, why hasn't Kharn obliterated what he was targeting already? I mean, he's got that many attacks, he should be mincing people left, right and centre. However, Kharn is a monster in combat, so being able to get a 3rd round of combat can be helpful, you know, clear out some extra models just in case there's any danger. Though I'm pretty sure it has to be done at the end of the fight phase, so those models will get to attack back before you get this final choppiness. I think, I'm pretty sure. Just remember, if Kharn charged, you can only target units that he did charge. So if you end up like piling in or consolidating into another unit, don't activate this unless you've got viable targets nearby. You activate this and then go, oh, by the way, you can't. Your opponent goes, by the way, you can't actually target anything. If they're good sportsmen, you'll realise the mistake you're in, your bloody rage, and you're like, I just want to kill things. You know, you didn't realise you can't have any viable targets. Your opponent will be like, don't worry about it, it was never a viable stratagem to use anyway. Some people say, will you use those 3 command points? Too bad. You know, don't just remember, if Kharn has slaughtered everything that he did charge, don't use it. If there's more stuff you can slaughter, go for it. Why not? Then we've got Scorn of Sorcery. 1 command point, use the stratagem when an enemy Psyker manifests a psychic power within 24 inches of a friendly World Eater unit. So this is a World Eater exclusive stratagem, and it's a defensive one, which I feel is quite beneficial for World Eaters because they don't have any Psykers of their own, so psychic defense can be a bit difficult. Roll a d6, and on a 4+, the effects of the psychic power are negated. Pretty simple, without Psykers in the World Eater Legion, you need some defense. Say Magnus is bearing down on Kharn with his terrifying smite power, then you have a 50% chance to shut it down, and then you don't suffer so many, you know, mortal wounds. And you can be thankful for that, but then again, if you've got Magnus, you know, and Kharn is the closest to activate smite, Kharn is the closest unit suffering those smites, then you've got other problems come around, because Magnus is a tough person as well. If he charges Kharn, then there's a good chance Kharn might not survive against Magnus, but you know, there might be ways. Just generally, a very good stratagem for World Eaters in total, to have a bit of psychic defense in general. So yeah, not bad. I think Kharn actually had a good psychic defense in previous editions, he's now lost that. This is the way to get it in other ways. So thanks guys, that is my analysis of Kharn. I think he's an absolute, you know, great character, quite pricey, but if you do get him in combat with units, you will see him rack up the kill count and generally make his points back. If he dies, too bad. That's 1 skull for Khorne and he doesn't really care. And Kharn's almost immortal, he's died a bunch of times and keeps coming back. So, but generally he's quite pricey, but he's a slaughter machine. I really like him, and I think he's an absolute staple within a World Eater list. I'd highly recommend him. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please comment on some sort of, if you've played Kharn, played against him, or played as him. If you've got any epic tales of some glorious murder that he has had, let me know. Someone in the AdMech videos once commented how Xtern robots charged Kharn and Berserkers and punched them all to death, which is really cool for robots to punch Kharn in the face and kill him. I'm sure many World Eaters would appreciate that. Tell me on some revenge that Kharn has had. Tell me about the skills he has collected. I'd love to know. And anything I got wrong, that's always handy for other viewers as well, or any recommendations that you think are super handy as well. So thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe, and check us out on social media, where we are posting a bunch of sort of projects we might be working on, and local and sort of community posts as well, sort of things that are happening in the hobby. So thanks again, and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.